On the field, the game is fierce and violent. But in the stands and at pregame tailgate parties, NFL fans are involved in violent confrontations.
Oh, yeah, kick to the head.
There are arrest and ejection statistics and team and league policies for a problem so substantial, activists are pushing back.
We are Fans Against Violence.
Oh, yeah,
we're passing out. Awesome.
You guys are at the wrong game.
No, we're not.
One player says the problem is so pervasive, he tells his family to stay home.
The violence in the stands is one of the main reasons why I don't allow my family to travel to away games.
Bottom line, fans are being injured in violent confrontations around NFL games.
I actually thought I was going to die because I couldn't move. I'm looking at this man who was probably 2 feet away from me, doubling up his fist and hitting me repeatedly.
Today outside the lines, fan violence in the NFL.
And now, reporting for Outside the Lines, Bob Lee.
There has been attention the past few days on fans behaving badly. The reaction in Atlanta a week ago Friday to the now infamous infield fly rule call. 2 days later, a number of Kansas City Chiefs fans cheering the moment that beleaguered quarterback Matt Castle went down injured. But today, something more primal, more dangerous, and yes, criminal. The violent and disruptive behavior by a number of NFL fans both outside and inside league stadiums. John Barr on this disturbing reality.
The Raiders' home opener was barely underway, and already an ugly scene was playing out in the north tailgate lot of the Oakland Coliseum. While the Raiders and Chargers squared off inside on a Monday night,
3rd and 5.
Outside, this Raiders fan was out cold on the pavement. According to a police report of the incident, he was savagely attacked, kicked and punched in the head and face so severely by a man and woman that a parking lot attendant thought the couple was going to kill the man.
What am I being charged for? Ask him.
During this one game, according to police, 35 people were arrested.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Most for alcohol-related or misdemeanor battery offenses, including this woman who was captured on a fan's cell phone camera hitting a police officer, then led away in handcuffs to a holding area outside the stadium.
Hey!
Scenes like these are hardly uncommon at NFL games. A quick search of YouTube produces multiple examples of fan violence, not just in Oakland, but around the NFL. In the stands at a Giants game, at a Redskins game where 2 Washington fans came to blows, in Seattle, where even the final whistle couldn't keep these 2 fans from becoming violent, and on the concourse at a Ravens game. These aren't the images of fans the NFL wants you to see.
Oh, yeah, kick to the head. Oh, yeah. He deserved it.
Well, you guys stay safe and have fun. Thank you. All right, thank you.
But they're precisely what inspired Raider fan Kathy Simone to do something about what she sees as a rising tide of fan violence around the NFL.
We are Fans Against Violence.
Oh, yeah,
we're
me too.
passing
I'm a
out.
fan against violence,
Awesome.
You guys are at the wrong game.
No, we're not.
It's only the fans that can take that final step in ending the violence. You can have as much security as you want, but if the fans don't take their part in the responsibility, it's never going to end.
After a disturbing outbreak of violence at last year's preseason game between the 49ers and the Raiders, Simone formed a nonprofit called Fans Against Violence. Now she's taking her message to the heart of Raider Nation.
If you guys are sitting next to a Charger fan, make sure and welcome them to the stadium, shake their hands.
Definitely.
One of Simone's initiatives is something called a fan shake, which encourages people to reach out and welcome opposing fans to their stadium.
We want to welcome home Charger fans.
But it's clear not everybody is buying in. Even players like Raiders linebacker Aaron Curry, who's thrown his support behind Simone's organization, have concerns.
The violence in the stands is one of the main reasons why I don't allow my family to travel to away games, because I just wouldn't be comfortable knowing that they're up there and there's nothing I can do about anything that may happen to them.
It might be safer on the field than in the stands.
A little tender?
Yeah. Former Bengals lineman Tony Coates, now a Bay Area chiropractor, is helping 66-year-old Manuel Austin recover from the lingering pain of a beating he received at an NFL game last December. It happened after a power failure during this Monday night game at Candlestick Park between the 49ers and the Steelers. Austin says after he exchanged heated words with the man in front of him who wouldn't sit down, the man and others around him started throwing punches.
And he hit me really hard, really hard. It was devastating. I actually thought I was going to die because I couldn't move. I couldn't move my body. I couldn't move my head. I couldn't close my fist. And I'm looking at this man who is probably 2 feet away from me, doubling up his fist and hitting me repeatedly in the face.
According to medical records reviewed by Outside the Lines, Austin lost 4 teeth in the attack, suffered hearing loss in his left ear, a concussion, and back injuries. The man who initially assaulted him, Austin says, was a season ticket holder named Mark Bullock, listed in the police report as 6'5", 350 pounds. Bullock was cited for misdemeanor battery, and his case is still being investigated. He declined to comment for this story.
What saved you that day?
My son, he looked at me. Excuse me. He looked at me in a way that was incredible. So he starts fighting these guys. I'm talking about 3 guys, all at the same time. This is my son, my boy. And here I am with the inability to move and or to defend my wife or my family. Number one, it's very embarrassing for a human being to be belittled. It's devastating to get your butt kicked in front of your family.
If there was a seminal moment for the NFL on the issue of fan violence, this was it. Last year's preseason matchup between the 49ers and Raiders at Candlestick Park. More than 70 fans were ejected from the stadium, according to police. 2 fans were shot in the parking lot. 4 arrested for battery. 3 charged with felonies.
When you saw some of that video, as the man charged with running NFL security, what went through your mind?
It was just unacceptable, completely off the charts, unacceptable.
From the NFL's perspective,
Jeff Miller is the chief security officer for the NFL.
These were people that had no intention to enter. So they came and they were in the tailgate area in the parking lots, and they had access to alcohol or drugs or weapons. And so what happened is you end up sending fans from the stadium out into an unsafe environment.
In the aftermath of the violence at last year's so-called Battle of the Bay, the NFL, at the urging of the 49ers, indefinitely suspended future preseason games between San Francisco and its closest rival just across the bridge, effectively ending what had become an annual tradition. But the lessons learned from that now infamous game are still being applied today, as NFL security teams are targeting unruly fans like never before. Miller says ejections are up slightly since 2008, largely because last season, roughly twice as many fans sent text messages reporting problems to security staffers during games.
So we've had a 23% reduction in the number of people that have been arrested inside our stadiums. And that's important because of the way in which we've created this conduit for fans to communicate with us. We now have a way to have an early warning of a problem.
The NFL's own statistics, on average, roughly 22 fans get ejected each game for everything from being violent or unruly to smoking or excessive drinking.
Hey, seriously, no.
But at just this one Raiders-Chargers game the first week of the season, Police say a total of 167 fans were ejected for those kinds of violations of the stadium's code of conduct.
Our company developed a fan conduct class.
As therapist Ari Novick recently explained at a conference on sports safety and security, the NFL is now sending fans who behave badly back to school. Novick is the brains behind an online fan conduct course NFL teams now require those ejected from stadiums to take in order for them to be allowed back into games.
Realistically, how many people are you going to reach with this?
Is a 4-hour class going to, rehabilitate someone that's got some severe problems? Of course not. That's not the objective here. The objective here is to educate fans about some basic skills to better behave when they come into the stadium.
Here's an actual question from the fan conduct class final exam. The use of foul language can intimidate other fans and often reduces game day enjoyment for those exposed. True or false?
Well, look, there are a select few that, just truly lack good judgment and reasoning that are going to have a difficult time with a question like that.
Really?
Yeah.
There are people who can't answer that one?
Yeah.
All of these efforts, the fan conduct class, the increased text messaging, stepped up security, have, the NFL insists, improved fan safety. But that's little comfort for the victims of violence, like Manuel Austin, who hasn't been back to a game since his attack.
Is it therapeutic for you to talk to us? Or is it just somewhat damaging because it takes you down a negative road?
No, it's very positive. It's very good for me, but it does incite those... it incites and brings back a lot of ugly things.
And remember this victim back in Oakland from the Raiders season opener? 2 people were arrested for the attack that sent him to the hospital. Police say after beating the man unconscious and leaving him on the pavement, they then went inside to watch the game.
John Barr reporting. This now in response from Amy Trask, the Chief Operating Officer of the Oakland Raiders. We are absolutely committed to providing a safe, secure, family-friendly environment and will remain relentless in our efforts to do so. I do bristle at the suggestion that Raider games are the only games at which fans may behave inappropriately. Every single team in the NFL, and in sports in general, has a handful of fans that do not behave appropriately. But to stereotype and malign our entire fan base is simply wrong. The vast, vast majority of Raiders fans are terrific men and women and children.
And let's consider now the issue of fan behavior. Let's say good day to Anthony Buchonico. Everybody calls him Butch, so we will too. Butch spent 15 years as director of security for the Philadelphia Eagles, and before that he was a Philadelphia cop, commander of the mayor's security detail at one point. And we also say good day to Bruce Lee Livingston, executive director of the advocacy group Alcohol Justice, based in Marin County, California. Gentlemen, it's good to have you both here. All right, Butch, you've been on the ground at the Vet and at the new Eagles Stadium, and you've seen it firsthand. How bad is this phenomenon now?
Today, people are, they don't want to fight. They don't want to fight the police like they used to before. They're just more nasty to each other. There's no respect for the guy next to you or the guy in front of you. You know what I mean? It's a complete breakdown there. The thing with the text message to security, I think that's one of the greatest things that I've heard of, because people were afraid to get up to call an usher over to tell them that there's a problem. This way they don't even have to move. No one knows what they're doing, because they would get harassed if someone knew what they were doing.
A lot of peer pressure. So you see it, it's good to see it's a positive plus in the march towards civilization. Folks don't want to take on cops, but you say there's a general disrespect among folks. Bruce, as you look at the big picture here, to what extent is alcohol at the root?
Well, we think alcohol is driving so much of this violence. It really is probably the major cause. Scientific estimates of people testing people on blood alcohol level are showing that over 5,000 people are leaving the stands of an NFL game legally drunk. If they tailgated before the game, they're 14 times more likely to be legally drunk over the .08 level. So it really is alcohol that's very much at the center, and that can only be solved through good, responsible beverage service policy and limiting the amount of advertising and limiting the amount of alcohol that's sold, perhaps quitting it halfway through every professional sports game.
You've raised a number of issues, the advertising and the rationing, but Butch, what are the tailgates like?
Well, first of all, you know, if you say stop selling beer, the next sound you hear is everybody falling off their chair at the league office. To borrow a line from one of the Godfather movies, we're all part of this hypocrisy. All right? The money from the concession stands, the hot dogs, the sodas, the beer, right, pays for security and the police. Now, you want more cops? Push more beer. I mean, if this isn't the dog chasing his tail, what is? That's the sad part about it, you know. And Monday night games, no matter where, who, they're going to be a problem. They start drinking from lunchtime, and they're coming in half tanked. Even the bar and club owners don't like the night games because these guys are already juiced before they even get down to where the stadium is.
Bruce,
so and it's up to guys like us to handle it.
And you have to step in there. Bruce, what about the economic factors driving the Anheuser-Busch $1 billion-plus sponsorship with the National Football League? The fact that you'll willingly, if you want a beer in an NFL stadium and any athletic endeavor, you're going to pay more for that beer than you would anywhere on planet Earth, and you want it as long as you can get it, even if you're a responsible drinker. I mean, there are a lot of dollars at stake here for the clubs.
Well, there sure are, and there's a lot of dollars at stake for Anheuser-Busch and for Miller Coors. These are companies that want to make a lot of money, and they are on these games. They charge a lot for drinks, and drinks should be expensive probably because it will help limit drinking. But you know, Butch mentioned it's the league office that falls off their chairs. That's good, right? You know, they've got to recognize that there's a problem here. They can't just be making money hand over fist. It's not just about the economics. It's about plans. It's about fan safety, and it's easy enough to blame the fans. That's what we see. That's where it's happening. But we really have to have team responsibility, league responsibility. State and city government should take a look at these stadiums, be much more proactive in the parking lots, perhaps limit tailgating on public property. There's so many levels of policy that we could be developing, and it really starts with trying to really limit the amount of money that can be made by Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors by selling their product at will. This is like a free
amount of money these companies can make?
Well, it's going to have to be that way if we're going to limit beer sales. And it's not just beer, it's wine and spirits. Most stadiums now are selling spirits, too.
Well,
so, you'll have to take it on the chin on making money.
Okay. Butch, let's put that to the side. Let's take you outside the stadium, either as director of security or as a Philadelphia cop in those days. Realistically, how much policing can you do and how much of a policy can be implemented out there in the vet parking lot back in the old days and at the new stadium?
Well, I'll tell you what, we were far ahead of the curve. We were searching people, patting them down since the 70s.
But that's to come into the stadium, right?
Yeah, coming in.
Take me to the parking lot. We've all been to NFL games. We've all seen what people are capable of doing and what they're capable of imbibing out there at tailgates. Is there any way to police that?
Well, you know, with the take of the game, the traffic, it's even hard to patrol around in the parking lots. We have policemen there. They do make arrests. Another thing about arrests is with the fights. Usually, it's a who struck John type of thing. We take them into the police room, right? A lot of it's going to be warrant advised, unless it's a real serious injury and aggravated assault. Then they'll affect an arrest. But then you also talk about every time a policeman makes an arrest, he has to leave the area. All right, we got to keep the cops in the parking lot, in the stadium, for as long as we can.
Bruce, how effective do you think? Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, one simple solution might be limiting the time that's spent in the parking lots. I mean, you can't have all-day tailgate parties everywhere. That's why I'm saying there's policy changes that need to take place. The league and the local police need to take seriously what's happening in the parking lots. If it gets to law enforcement, that's already too far down the road. We need to have limits on how much drinking can take place, on whether you have public open containers, on how long the parking lots are open. It's not just traffic checks, and that's very good. That was the response on that the Raiders-49ers game, was to do more traffic checks. That is not anywhere near the amount of activity that we need to do.
Let me ask you, Bruce,
we need
if I could,
top to bottom at the stadium to take a look at this.
With the referee question recently, we saw the NFL it took the disaster of a bad call on a Monday night to basically move the NFL to a solution on negotiating with the regular referees, and the money at stake in the $10 billion reality of the NFL was relative pocket change. Beer money is not pocket change. How realistically, with that template of the referee negotiations as an example, do you think that the league would be towards really limiting and restricting beer sales to the point where you will limit profits and revenues?
Well, there might be limits on profits and revenues, but we've seen that these teams are getting more and more expensive to purchase. They're worth so much more money than anybody can really imagine. The players' salaries, whatever. There's so much money going into these games. You know, if it's going to be a good experience, a family experience, does anybody talk about a family experience at an NFL game anymore? Why can't we do that? I'm afraid to take my two young boys, they're 11 and 12, to a game. It just is unimaginable for me because of the safety issues.
It's also very expensive as well.
It's out of control.
Exactly. Butch, let me ask you, when folks are ejected, to be able to gain readmittance to an NFL game, they, as we saw during John Barr's report, you now have to pass a fan conduct class. How effective is that, do you think?
I don't know. That's something totally new to me. But when someone's ejected, we pull their tickets. It's as simple as that. They're not going to get back in unless they use somebody else's ticket. And if they use somebody else's ticket, they get caught. We'll pull their tickets too. And the other issue is that it's a massive undertaking. What you have to do is target certain areas. That's what we used to do every game. Target certain areas, like at the 700 level, and then we would attack that. And we would make arrests, and we would clean the house.
Yeah, the 700 level at the old vet, legendary for what would go on up there. So questions of policing, of law enforcement, and as Bruce makes the point, possibly questions and changes in policy. Check our page at facebook.com/OTL. Follow me on Twitter at Bob Lee ESPN. And download our podcast at ESPN.com or subscribe for free at iTunes. We'll be right back.